Once upon a time, on a warm afternoon, a curious girl named Alice sat beside a river with her sister. Her sister was reading a book with no pictures, and Alice felt bored. Then she heard hurried footsteps. A white rabbit ran past her, wearing a little coat. To Alice's surprise, it spoke like a person. "Oh dear, I shall be late," it said, pulling a watch from its pocket. A rabbit with a watch and a voice was too strange to ignore, so Alice followed it. The rabbit dashed to a hedge and vanished into a dark hole beneath the roots. Alice slipped in after it, and at once she began to fall. Down, down, down she went through a deep tunnel, past shelves and jars, until she finally landed on a heap of dry leaves. She found herself in a long hallway with many locked doors. On a glass table lay a tiny golden key. It opened a small door hidden behind a curtain. Through it, Alice could see a beautiful garden filled with flowers and sunlight, but she was far too big to squeeze through. On the table was a bottle labeled "Drink Me." Alice took a careful sip. In a moment, she began to shrink, smaller and smaller, until she was the right size for the door. Then she realized the key was still on the table, and now the table was as tall as a tree. Near the door, she spotted a little cake that said, "Eat me." She nibbled it, and suddenly she grew so tall that her head touched the ceiling. "This is impossible," Alice cried. After a few more changes, she managed to reach the key, unlock the door, and step into Wonderland at last. The air smelled of roses and rain, and the sunlight looked too bright, like a painted picture. Alice felt nervous but thrilled. The garden led into a forest where everything felt alive and mysterious. She met a blue caterpillar sitting on a mushroom, calmly smoking a hookah. "Who are you?" the caterpillar asked. Alice tried to answer, but she felt confused. "I'm not quite sure," she admitted, "because I've changed so many times today." The caterpillar told her that one side of the mushroom would make her grow, and the other side would make her shrink. Alice took small bites and practiced until she could control her size. Soon she saw a grin in a tree, the Cheshire Cat. "Which way should I go?" asked Alice. "That depends on where you want to get to," the cat replied. Alice said she didn't know. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat, and it faded away until only its smile remained. Following the cat's directions, Alice came upon a long table set for tea. The Mad Hatter and the March Hare were there, with a sleepy dormouse between them. They asked riddles that had no answers, argued about time, and spoke in circles. Alice tried to be polite, but the whole scene made her head spin. At last she stood up. "This is the strangest tea party I have ever seen," she said, and she left. Not long after, Alice reached a grand garden guarded by playing card soldiers. A trumpet sounded, and the Queen of Hearts marched in, fierce and impatient. She shouted, "Off with their heads!" at the smallest mistake, and everyone trembled. The Queen ordered a game of croquet, but it was more chaos than sport. The mallets were flamingos, the balls were hedgehogs, and the rules changed whenever the Queen was in a bad mood. Alice stayed calm, and that annoyed the Queen even more. Suddenly, everyone was called to court. The Knave of Hearts was on trial for stealing the Queen's tarts. The courtroom was noisy and ridiculous. Witnesses spoke nonsense, the evidence made no sense, and the Queen interrupted whenever she pleased. At last she cried, "Sentence first, verdict afterwards." As Alice listened, she began to grow again, taller and taller, until she stood above the courtroom. "This trial is foolish," she said bravely. The Queen screamed, "Off with her head!" and the playing cards rose into the air, rushing toward Alice like a storm. Alice threw up her arms, and suddenly she was back on the riverbank. The forest was gone. The queen, the rabbit, and the cards had vanished like mist. Her sister was still beside her, quietly reading. Alice sat up, blinking in the sunlight. It had all been a dream. Yet, as she smiled, she felt that wonder was real, and that curiosity could turn an ordinary day into an unforgettable adventure.